Stocks on Wall Street rally for a second straight session on Monday ahead of key earnings from Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta and Apple this week. Stocks in the Asia-Pacific trade higher with the exception of China, while the SGX Nifty signals a lower start for the Indian market. It's a mixed second quarter for Reliance. Consumer-facing business puts up a strong show with retail delivering record quarterly revenue. The oil-to-chemical business, however, remains weak. And it's a second strong quarter for ICICI Bank. Net interest margin comes in at an all-time high and loan growth is the best in 27 quarters. Kotak Mahindra Bank, meanwhile, sees net interest margin improve in the second quarter. Loan growth remains strong as well. Rishi Sunak is elected leader of the Conservative Party in the UK after a tumultuous three-day race and will take over as Prime Minister today, making him the first Prime Minister of colour in Britain's history. Hi guys, a very good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are all of the top headlines that we're looking at. And here's hoping that you all had a wonderful festive season and Diwali with your loved ones. With that said, let's kickstart this show and take you through what's going on in the global markets. We do have, two market holidays this week, so we are trading only for 3 days. But today we're getting cues from Asia and it's looking quite mixed. So you have Taiwan and Hang Seng on your screen, which are definitely seeing some red. Taiwan is seeing the worst cuts right now of over 1%. Hang Seng has actually recovered a bunch of its losses, so it's currently just around 20 points in the red. So it's recovered significantly from where we saw it earlier today. You also have Shanghai, which is seeing cuts of around 20 points as well. So no big losses as far as Asia goes, but it's definitely quite a mixed picture. What's holding up? You have the Kospi, which is seeing gains of around 0.5%, so that one looks good. Straits also around 0.5% in the green, and the SGX Nifty will come up for you. That one is indicating quite a flattish start for our own markets right now, just around 15 points in the red. That's what we have on the SGX Nifty. So that's what's happening across the Asian markets. But let's also talk about Wall Street now. Dow Jones gave up around 0.5%. The S&P 500 gained 1%, and the Nasdaq Composite closed with a 92-point gain. So that's what's happening across the U.S. markets. But let's bring you some important opinion. This comes in from former Federal Reserve Vice Chair Roger Ferguson, as well as Allianz's Chief Economic Advisor Mohamed El-Erian. So let's listen in to what they had to say.
The market was wrong to get off to the races, as you say, because I think once the Fed is done with hiking, it's also going to stay there for a very long time until inflation is conquered. So I think the market is misreading the Fed's intentions, even if the Fed does slow down a little bit in terms of the pace at which it's raising rates. The pivot's back on the table in the market's minds, but I think they're losing track of the big picture, which is inflation is still running far too high for the Fed's comfort, and they are going to use their tools, primarily interest rates, to get inflation much closer to the 2% target and have a high degree of confidence that it's there before they even think of reducing rates.
We shouldn't take much comfort from the yields coming down around the world because they're coming down on growth concerns. The European PMI numbers were horrible. Germany is at 44. And in China, while the GDP numbers beat, there's a lot of question marks about it, especially given what's happening in retail sales. I think what's happening to our market, and it's wonderful to have the best week since June, it's wonderful to see the rally continue, is that we've redefined what a pivot is. We've redefined it from meaning lower rates to pausing to slowing. And if you redefine that, then you will have a liquidity effect. And that's what we're getting. We're getting a liquidity effect rather than a fundamental effect.
All right, that is some important global market opinion that we're tracking. But let's now talk about all of the cues that you should track as we get into a fresh trading session. We have Sonal, Nigel, as well as Vahishta joining us with the trade setup and to also take us through all of the individual stocks that could be in the news today. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. And Sonal, it's across to you first. Take us through all of the cues that we should track for our markets this morning.
Good morning, Pavitra, and festive greetings to you as well. Happy Diwali to everyone. Well, yesterday we did trade. It was the Muhura trading session, and on lower volumes, we saw that the frontline indices, they were up 1%. But as I said, they were lower volumes yesterday. So today we are expecting volumes to get better and to the normalized levels. So frontline indices were up 1% and markets, they closed at a 1-month high, and it was the 7th consecutive session of gains for our own markets. ICICI Bank and HDFC Bank, they were the top contributors, with Bank Nifty, the one which was leading the charge in yesterday's trading session. Now, today is the penultimate day before we go into expiry. That is on Thursday, because again, tomorrow we are not trading. So it is going to be a truncated week. So we'll watch out for moves in the last 1 hour of trading session. That is going to be something very important. On the downside, Nifty support comes in at 17,500. On the upside, we'll be looking at levels of 17,900. And strong banking results over the weekend is something which will support Nifty today. In terms of US markets, or the global markets, so to say, US markets, they were up for the 2nd consecutive day. And a lot of these tech-related names, they are going to be in focus today. Big earnings expected this week. On Tuesday, Microsoft and Alphabet. On Wednesday, it's Meta. And on Thursday, we have earnings coming in from Amazon and Apple. So US market moves primarily will be driven by tech-related names. Hang Seng was down 6% in yesterday's trading session. Today as well, we are seeing some cuts on that. It's quite flattish, but still, there's no respite, so to say, on that one. So Hang Seng and Taiwanese index both are lower today. If you look at the SGX Nifty, usually you would just look at that. But Nifty Futures and SGX Nifty, that is showing some difference of around 90-odd points. So let's see which way things go. It is showing a 90-point uptick. Let's see whether we open in that direction or not. But for now, decent global cues and strong handover from yesterday's trading session.
All right, Sonal, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those cues that we should track. But let's also bring in Vahishta now, who's looking at all of the individual stocks that we should keep on our radar this morning. Vahishta, it's all about earnings.
That's right, Pavitra. It is all about earnings, and there have been a couple of stocks which have released their results in the past few days. The first is Reliance, wherein there has been a strong consumer-facing business. There have been some good numbers coming in from Reliance Jio as well. There have been a record quarterly revenues from the retail business. However, there's been some kind of weakness in the oil-to-chemical business. Moving on to ICICI Bank, wherein the NII has grown by 26% to 14,700 crores, but the slippages have come in at 4,300 crores versus 5,800 crores. Moving on to Kotak Mahindra Bank, where the NII has grown by 27% to 5,100 crores approximately. The slippages have been lower at 983 crores versus 1,400 crores. For SBI Life Insurance, there has been a strong VNB growth led by an improved product mix. The APE was down 1% to 3,900 crores. VNB though was up 24% in this quarter. Moving on to JSW Steel, there has been a miss versus the CNBC-TV18 poll. Though revenues were up 29%, the operating profit has declined by approximately 83% on a year-on-year basis. Moving on to Torrent Pharma, the revenue and EBITDA have missed the estimates by a marginal bit. The revenue has grown, which was led by India plus the Brazil business. The US business rather has declined on a quarter-on-quarter basis due to price erosion and a lack of new launches in this quarter. The last stock is United Spirits. Premiumization is the one that has led the volume growth in this quarter. The overall volumes were up 9% on year-on-year basis. Prestige and above volumes were also up 14% on a year-on-year basis, while popular volumes were up 2% on a year-on-year basis.
That is a long list, Vahishta. Thanks a lot for getting us all of those individual names. We're going to keep them on our radar today. Finally, let me hand it over to Nigel, who's now looking at all of the cues from the futures and options space. Hi, Nigel.
Well, morning. Yesterday, we had a low volume trading session, 11,500 crores, which is more or less in line with what we saw in last motor trading session as well. So the flows, they are not very material. But yesterday, they were mild sellers, institutions. You net both those two numbers out. However, the last few days, the Nifty has been on a winning streak, and that's primarily because institutions, that's the FI and the DI number put it together, they have been net buyers since 14th of October 2022. That's 6 straight sessions that we saw buying. That's prior to yesterday. Yesterday, we're not really considering it because volumes are so low. And on an average, they were buying close to 900 crores. That's been the big driver. The institutions have been buying. The second factor has been the FIs. Well, the shorts have got stuck on the wrong side. Even in yesterday's trading session, though volumes are relatively lower, the FIs covered a large number of their short positions. Close to 13,000 contracts were covered out. And if you look at it in the last few days, well, on Friday morning, we took stock of what the positioning was. At that point of time, the short positioning was at around 73%. That's Thursday's close. Now we wake up to around 66% of their positions on the short side, and the net short positions are only 60,000 contracts. Remember, at one point of time, it was 1,20,000 short contracts. So quite a large short covering bounce is what we have seen. The options that were active even in yesterday's trading session, the 17,700 put, well, that added close to 35 lakh shares, or the premium out there is around 71 rupees. So that's giving you a sense at 17,600, 17,630 odd level. That's crucial on the downside. On the upside, you had the 17,800 call, which has a fair bit of open interest. Yesterday, it added more than 11 lakh shares. Premium at around 57 rupees. So let's plug the numbers in then. You have your support at around 17,600. On the upside, 17,850 could be met with some bit of resistance. But as long as the 50 DMA holds out and the dollar index is well behaved at around 112 odd, the long bias is likely to continue. The SGX Nifty, so you need to compare the SGX Nifty with the Nifty Futures. So actually, we'll be opening up in the green. Let's see whether or not we go to that resistance zone. Back to you guys.
All right, Nigel, Sonal, as well as Vahishta, thanks a lot for joining us and taking us through the trade setup this morning. With that, it's time for our first short break on the show. But when we return, Nifty heavyweight Reliance Industries reported its second quarter earnings on Friday. So we're going to get you all of the details when we come back. Welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's now shift focus and bring you some important earnings. Like we told you, index heavyweight Reliance Industries reported quite a mixed set of second quarter numbers. So Sonia is here to break down all of those for us. Sonia.
Well, thanks a lot for that. As you rightly pointed out, it was a mixed set of numbers from Reliance Industries, and the consumer-facing businesses have put up a very strong showing this time around. Both for Jio as well as for the retail business, it's been a record numbers that the company has posted. In fact, the consumer-facing businesses now contribute about 49 or 50% to the overall EBITDA. The oil-to-chemical business has reported weakness, and that's something that perhaps could drag the stock lower. But two other important decisions. The company has announced a restructuring of the EPC business as well as a demerger, and they also announced a listing of their financial services business. Now, brokerages are a mixed bag. JP Morgan has an overweight on the stock. They have a target price of 3,065. HSBC has a hold call. They have cut their target price, in fact, to 2,500 rupees. They say the weakness in the oil to chemical business could put a lid on the gains for the company going forward. While Jefferies retains their buy, they have a target price of 3,090 on the stock. So mixed bag coming in, but importantly, they've announced the listing of the financial services business, which the street would take positively. Back to you.
All right, Sonia, thanks a lot for taking us through all of those highlights from Reliance's earnings. But with that, let's also move on to the banking names, because this weekend was a lot about the big banking earnings. So ICICI Bank as well as Kotak Mahindra Bank both reported numbers over the weekend, and Ekta is here with a roundup of what they look like. Ekta, good morning.
Hi, morning. Well, yes, I am filling for Abhishek today, and what a record set of numbers which came in for ICICI Bank. Record-setting, record-breaking in terms of the net interest margins as well as the loan growth. So I'll just take you through a couple of statistics. The stock closed up 2%. It was the top gainer on the Murrah day. NII was up 26.5%. Profit was up 37%. Global net interest margins came in at 4.31%, which was an all-time high. Gross NPA and net NPA came in at the lowest level in 31 quarters for ICICI Bank. So gross NPA came in at 3.19% and net NPA at 0.61%. Slippages at 4,366 crores versus around 5,825 crores. So that's on ICICI Bank. Kotak was a bit subdued in yesterday's trading session. NII up 27%, net profit up around 27% as well. Net interest margins above 5% for the quarter. Loan growth at 25% for Kotak. Slippages came in at around 983 crores, which was sub 1,000 crores. Analysts believe, however, that the net interest margin could probably normalize going forward. So that would probably keep a cap in terms of, the reaction for Kotak. And it's trading at around over 4 times price to book value on an FY24 basis. So some believe that maybe a large part of the good news is already factored in.
All right, Ekta, thanks a lot for taking us through numbers from both ICICI Bank as well as Kotak Mahindra Bank. So that is the wrap of what's happening as far as the banking earnings go. But with that, let's also bring you some more important news that came through. Akash Ambani, the chairman of Reliance Jio Infocom, announced the launch of 5G services in Rajasthan. So Akash Ambani, along with his wife Shloka Ambani, visited the famous Srinathji temple in Natwara on Saturday to offer prayers. Reliance chairman Mukesh Ambani, remember, had visited the temple last month and had promised to launch the services in the state from the temple. So let's also hear out what he had to say at the launch event.
भगवान श्रीनाथ जी की कृपा से आज नादवारा में जियो ट्रू 5G की सर्विस के साथ 5G पावर्ड वाईफाई सेवा का शुभ आरंभ हो रहा है। मैं ये मानता हूं कि 5G सबके लिए है, इसलिए हमारी कोशिश है कि दिल्ली, मुंबई, कोलकाता और वाराणसी की तरह देश के कोने-कोने तक 5G चालू हो और जियो की ट्रू 5G सर्विस जल्दी चालू हो। श्रीनाथ जी के आशीर्वाद से नादवारा और चेन्नई में भी आज से जियो ट्रू 5G सिटी बन गए हैं।
All right, that is some important comments coming in on the launch of 5G in the state of Rajasthan. But with that, another important opinion coming through as India's largest rocket with 36 satellites made its commercial debut on Sunday. Let's listen into what Bharati Enterprises Chairman Sunil Bharati Mittal had to say about the historic launch.
Then I think the important development of today is that India will do a first major commercial launch from an Indian rocket, from an Indian soil. And that, to my mind, is a very proud moment. This is a historic day for India. It will be a very, very important mission for OneWeb.
Some timeline on when we can expect a rollout, perhaps, and by when the satellites, perhaps the whole entire constellation, will be in space.
Well, 6 launches are left. As you know, we lost those launches which could have been finished by June this year. Now we'll be finishing all our launches by March. 2 of them from ISRO NCL here in Sriharkota, and the balance 3 to 4 from the US by SpaceX. So these are all happening in sequence. Every month there will be a launch now. That has delayed our services in India. We expect them to start by middle of next year. Services are already available in India, but they're patchy. There'll be few hours, but to give a 24/7 services, we will need more satellites to go up. Today, services are available in Alaska, Canada, Greenland, UK. So hopefully we will have our services fully available soon.
Just one final question, sir, on the issue of allocation versus auctioning, the band between 27.5 and 28.5. Your concerns there for the government to be sensitive towards the needs of the space industry?
Well, I think Honorable Prime Minister has very clearly said satellite is going to be one of the important mix of providing telecom services, especially to areas where we can't reach by mobile networks or fiber networks. So how do you cover them? These are the places in desert, Himalayas, in forests, in deep sea, and the applications are very critical for many government agencies. I think the government will make a right decision to provide spectrum for satellite communication, which will make a business case viable in India, like everybody else has done in the world. I know there are noises, pressures, but you cannot compare a satellite 15-acre ground station spectrum allocation like that of an all-India mobile spectrum. So people are trying to confuse this discourse, and I think we'll be able to illuminate. And there are lots of good experts within the government who will understand this point.
All right, that is Sunil Bharati Mittal talking about the opportunity of satellite communication. But with that, it's time for a short break on the show. When we come back, as always, we talk about what's going on in the world of commodities. So stay tuned for all of those updates. Welcome back, and as promised, let's talk about the commodities space now. Manisha Gupta joins us with an update on what's really going on there. Manisha, good morning. What are you tracking today?
Morning, Pavitra. Well, I'm looking at a couple of industrial commodities where we have seen prices continue to decline, and this is because the business activity indicators from Japan, US, and European Union all have come in on the weaker side. So you have the steel prices yet again down by 2.5%. It's trading at a 2-year lows now. The Chinese investment in the property sector also has declined by 8% till time in 2022, and that weighs. Apart from that, the World Steel Association also expects the 2022 steel demand to decline by 2.3%. That's weighing on steel prices yet again. Not just that, the rubber prices overnight fell more than 7%. There are concerns over aggressive U.S. Fed rate hike, but also the weak Chinese demand that continues to weigh on. So most commodities actually in Asia have opened on a weaker note, but these two clearly have slipped some more.
All right, Manisha, thanks a lot for getting us that quick wrap on what's really going on in the world of commodities. But here's some important news on the UK political situation. Rishi Sunak gets set to become Britain's next Prime Minister after a tumultuous three-day race for the Conservative Party's leadership. 42-year-old Sunak will make history when he takes over as UK's Prime Minister later today for several firsts. So the British Asian is not only the first person of colour to become UK's Prime Minister, but he's also the youngest leader in over 2 centuries. And in just a short address after his election as Conservative Party leader, Sunak warned of profound economic challenges faced by the UK and also ruled out an early election. He told his colleagues that they had to unite in the challenge or die. So that is the word coming in from Rishi Sunak, and that really sort of brings an end to the kind of political situation that we were seeing in the United Kingdom. But with that, we're out of time on this edition of Power Breakfast. The Asian markets are quite mixed, like we've been pointing out to you. So let's see which way things really go from here. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.